Mr. Trump may not be all that much of a strategist and not that much of a business person, but he has mastered an ability to keep himself in the news. It used to be limited to the United States. Now he has the whole world. He's on the front page nearly everywhere. The tariffs put him there because he is now literally threatening everybody. And so he gets his picture on the front page because people are struck and worried. And before I even take a step further, let me talk about that for a moment. We've not seen this before. China, to take one example, hasn't done anything remotely like this. The Financial Times may enjoy listing, they have a command economy or a dictatorship, the usual Western noise about the East. But in point of fact, when it comes to dictating to the rest of the world, China takes a back seat to what this government in the United States has just done. Let me remind everyone, no conversation, no discussion, no debate. Unilaterally, the government of the United States informs virtually every other country on earth that they will now have economic difficulties because of what the United States government wants. That's a dictatorial pronouncement, folks. That's not a democratically arrived at anything. Remember what democracy is. If you're affected by a decision, you have the right to participate in it. There was no participation in all the 180 countries of the world. Mr. Trump didn't bother to give them any participation. Now, he says, after he takes the action, he may negotiate with them as to how much they must give him to it. Wow. You know, when two guys in trench coats come into the neighborhood dry cleaning store and announce to the patron of the dry cleaning store, we're here to pick up our $200 a week of protection money. And the naive patron turns to them and says, what do I need protection from? Who do I need protection from? And they smile at him and they say, from us. That's what this is. This is a racket, and the whole world knows it. Only the American people live in a bit of a fog about what they're doing. But the impact of this, let me warn you all on behalf of the rest of the world. Every government in the world, everyone, has economic problems of one kind or another, including us. But what every government in the world will now be able to do is blame the United States for their problems. And there'll always be a grain of truth, because whatever problems they had, Mr. Trump just made them worse. So this whole notion that this is some strategic masterstroke, you must be kidding. This is not a masterstroke. This is a colossal blunder. Now here's something. British paper The Guardian, on the morning of April 15th, 2025, has a wonderful story about how the leaders of high tech in the United States and many of the largest donors to Mr. Trump's campaign are also major shareholders in a half dozen companies that are doing mining in Greenland, it turns out. And that Greenland may be the locus for lots of the electricity generating that the high-tech industry needs to operate the AI and all the rest of it. In other words, they've been busy. One of the reasons is Greenland is thought to possess likely quantities of the rare earths, among other things, which those mining companies are busily searching for using the money that Mr. Trump's donors gave them. I mean, this stinks to high hell. That's what it does. Anyone who knows about classic governmental grift should have their antenna vibrating about all of this. But mostly these are excuses. The issue with China is not about rare earths or even export-import. The imports from China, let's remember, half of them come from subsidiaries of American corporations who went there precisely because it was more profitable to produce in China and ship it back here than it was to produce it here in the first place. Mr. Trump yells at the Chinese, but the Chinese didn't make the key decision. The Chinese didn't decide for those companies to move. Those companies, led by good old Americans, made that decision. And they made it for the good old capitalist reason to maximize their profits. That's the reality. And the reason they're not coming back to the United States is the same as the reason why they left, and tells you more about Mr. Trump's lousy planning. The wages here are too high. They're not coming here. It's not competitive. Everywhere else in the world, or almost everywhere, the wages are lower, and that's where they're going. And when you add that the market is growing faster outside the United States than inside, well, then you have the 1-2 punch of all capitalism. Entrepreneurs go where the wages are low and the market is growing. The United States is not that place. And tariffs aren't going to make it that place. It looks good. You can talk a big line. You can stand up there and tell you, as our president did, that a lot of countries are coming to kiss a part of his anatomy. But the reality is, this isn't going real well.
If you learn how to swim, or if you're instructed in how to be a swimming lifeguard, you're told that one of the things you have to be careful about is that a person drowning or losing control in the water, if you go to help them, they will grab onto you and actually pull you down with them, not intending you harm, but they are desperate because their lungs are filling up with water. So you've got to approach them very carefully, or else it'll be two people drowning, not just the other person. That's the sense I want to convey here, that we are seeing people behave. Canada is an ally, has always been. Mexico, basically also. Subordinate allies. Why would you turn on them? Why would you insult them? Call the president of the prime minister of their country governor, as if he were the head of a state. Say such a thing. Why are you telling the Greenland, the people of Denmark, I'm going to take it. I want it. I'm going to take it. What would you do? What is that? That's the behavior of a drowning person who grabs hold of your swimming trunks because it's just trying to save him. You don't mean to pull off your pants. It's just the way it works. That's a little bit of what I'm thinking. And I can tell you that more and more of the world is looking at the United States now. And I've not seen this before in my lifetime. Born in Ohio, lived and worked here all my life. The United States is a rogue country. The United States is the country to which the rest of the world looks, what the hell is going on there? You know how the United States tried to pay to portray the head of North Korea, a country nobody knows anything about, right? He's crazy. He's a little fat man, and he's bizarre. That's how the world is looking at Mr. Trump and the United States. In that moment, Donald Trump says, I'm going to take back the Panama Canal. I'm going to take Greenland away from Denmark. I'm going to take Canada away from the Canadian. What? Here's a wonderful Hegelian irony. Coming out of World War II, and you cut off the source of income, and now you're saying, but you can't export anything to America anymore because we got a tariff against you, and a lot of people aren't going to buy $125 bag of coffee because they'll turn to tea. They're not going. What is Mexico going to do? Where is Mexico? In Canada, it's different. Canada sells us lumber. We're going to put a 25%. You know what? Nobody can afford to build houses in America now. Add 25% to the cost of lumber, kiss it goodbye. And rents will go. What? Half of this country uses electricity from Canada, the Midwest, brings Canadian electricity because Canada has oil, gas, and can generate masses of it. What is Canada going to do with its lumber, with its Oh, I know. There is a place that will buy all the electricity and all the lumber. It's called the People's Republic of China. Having a real competitor for the first time means everybody has options they never had before. So the real effect of Mr. Trump's policies and I haven't even gone through the impact on China or the impact on Europe, and he's throwing tariffs on them too. You could have a concatenation of events in which the unthought through strategy of Mr. Trump doesn't yet take into account that there's another competitor who can buy if you don't, who can sell if you don't. You're not what you were. In the latter half of the 20th century, it all made a kind of sense. The United States says jump, and everybody asks how high. But we're not there. It's over. We already are picking up people whose crime seems to have been that they participated in anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian activities at various universities. The universities are caving, giving the names to the police, abetting the whole process. Columbia, beyond words. Okay, those are signs. And I think it is as inappropriate to equate Hitler to Trump as it is not to see that Trump is under very similar pressures and is making some similar moves. That's as much as it's reasonable to say, but it's unreasonable to deny that. I wish it weren't the case. Secretary of State Rubio made a speech yesterday in which he made it clear, I'm boasting. 300 foreign students, that was the number he gave, have been expelled from the United States, have had their visas canceled or withdrawn. People in the middle of their PhD studying such revolutionary topics as, oceanography and so forth. But it turns out that they wrote an article about genocide in Gaza or something like that. Jesus, it's interesting. It's interesting that people who come here and participate in nonviolent, perfectly legal political expression, which is not an excluded activity by anybody, are now and that nothing is happening. Very few people saying much about it. The Democratic Party is DOA. It's not even there. Mr. Biden seems to have vanished into thin air. Kamala Harris with him, This is for me, by the way, you're heading into the greatest crisis the Democratic Party has had in a long time. The progressive wing of that party, it cannot continue much longer the way it has. They may not recover. I can't tell you the number of people that have contacted me talking about new parties, third party. It's off the chart. That doesn't prove or guarantee anything. But it is an interesting phenomena coming out of this situation. And even the Republican Party may not be able to. You can see senators already over this, what are they calling it? Signal gate, are beginning to split inside the Republicans, because those who see this as another Watergate and they want to get on the right side early, and those who don't want to. But here's the punchline, take us back. These are all signs of a declining empire.
When empires decline, they divide and eat each other up. That's what they do. Look at it this way. Whatever Mr. Trump is doing that exceeds past practice will now be copied by the Democrats. They will do, after the next election, to him what he's doing to them.
especially because if you ask the leading Republicans, they are doing, in their minds, to the Democrats, what the Democrats did to him. Put him through all those legal hoops, charge him with things, make him out to be a big criminal and all the rest of it. And who was doing it? People who, in general, do the same things as he does, but just get away with it more because it's been the accepted behavior. I mean, Mr. Clinton did everything as grubby sexually as Mr. Trump. He didn't end up in front of a jury. I mean, I understand there are specific differences, but you can understand the Republicans are saying every day they're just doing to the Democrats what was done to them. And there's a good bit of truth to that. I don't see any reason why I should make believe otherwise. I know the Democrats are capable of it all. Look what they did to Bernie Sanders. Not all that different. Mr. Trump first savaged the Republican establishment, and then he went on to savage the Democrats. The Democrats savaged Bernie. Is there any reason to believe they're not going to savage Mr. Trump? They already tried. After his first term, they're going to try again, and they may succeed. But if we can be materialists, then I don't see here a fundamental difference at all. Democrats might not say 51st state to Canada. The bravado there, which will appeal to Americans, will make the Canadians crazy. And in the long run, that's probably not a good idea. And Greenland, really? You're gonna what? Forcibly take property away from a fellow NATO member? That's an interesting move. Why? You already use Greenland as a base for the American military. They already have bases. They've had them there for many years. Greenland has said, we will give you more bases. If you know anything about Greenland, it is an enormous geography and virtually no people. I live in an apartment complex here in Manhattan. We have more residents of this complex than there are citizens of Greenland. I believe their population is 58,000 people. We have 60,000 here. So we beat them. And we're just a little corner neighborhood of the city of New York. Just like the population of New York is larger than the population of Jews in Israel. Let's keep our perspective. This is theater. This is performance. This is all of that crap. If Mr. Trump wants to build hotels in Greenland, the chances are that with his money, even without the presidency, he can persuade enough Greenlanders to sell him coastal property and build his damn hotels and his golf courses. This is not serious here. He is showing how powerful he is. It's all being done in a big rush. He's taken the canal from Panama. There's nobody in Panama either. It's like Greenland. It's just, this is all performance. And he's the naughty boy, the mold breaker, and these are the images that got him to the presidency. He's just continuing. It's what works for him. Why should you expect him to stop? This is what has worked for him. And the old lesson, which philosophers have figured out for thousands of years, he didn't get it. He didn't get the message. He didn't pay much attention as a student. You can kind of see that. So the old comment, you can't keep using the same methods. You can't reason, it got me here, because what got you here may be what destroys the here you got to. You have to always do the difficult job of assessing he's doing more. Kamala Harris did more of what Joe Biden did, and that's why she lost. It's a terrible, dangerous mistake, but no one has clued him in. So we're going to have these surprising moments like we had the other evening with Mr. Netanyahu sitting there and saying that Mr. Trump is the best friend Israel ever had, without understanding what his saying that will cost both him and Mr. Trump. Here it is from the horse's mouth, what every critic of Israel and America in the Arab or Muslim worlds have been saying for a long time. And he just said, yep, that's what we got. without a demurring word from Mr. Trump, who didn't have the presence of mind to realize we have to walk that one back. Now, he may still do that. There's begun to be a walking back of the takeover of Gaza. That's already started. Some of his assistants are muddying that water because they're aware at least of some of the counteracting ideas and forces. This is spectacle politics. We did see it when he was president before. We were lulled into a false notion that Mr. Biden could take us back to the previous changing of the guard from Tweedledum to Tweedledee, a Republican and a Democrat, and then another one. And the empire is falling apart. Neither party can say so. Neither party can dare admit it. So neither party can come up with a plan or a program for how to handle this problem because they're all in the what problem mentality. And so what do they have to do? They have to come up with ersatz, substitutes. They have to be seen to be busily dealing with the urgent problems of our time because they're not. It's exactly the same as listening to Mr. Trump and his supporters talk about his mandate. He won the popular vote by 1.5%. That's not a mandate. That never was a mandate. Whatever the opposite of mandate is, that's what it is. So he has to say, I'm taking Greenland. I'm not going to let trans people play on women's sports because everybody knows there's bad things happening. Everybody in America knows, but they don't know exactly what it is or where to look for it. So the president, if he's going to appeal to people as a solution, in some sense, of the malaise they all feel, he's got to come up with a worked out theater. These are the problems. We have a problem with our economy. I'm going to hit people with tariffs. What is it? How that works, why we should expect that to work, nobody asks. A few economists point out that it might not work. Why? Because there's a 300-year literature on tariffs, because they're an old tool that have been used in many parts of the world in many different circumstances. So any decent library has millions of books and articles about tariffs. If you know any of that, then the blubble bubble that comes out of the Trump administration is pathetic in its naivete, in its simple-mindedness. He's slapping them with tariffs, and he's slapping them, and he's getting more territory, and he's preventing those trans people from playing soccer with women. This is a performance substitute. What it means, it can work politically for a while. It certainly has done that for Mr. Trump. But meanwhile, the underlying problems are getting worse. They're not being addressed. They're not being debated. There are no plans being formulated. What do you do for a declining empire? What have other empires done in their declines? What are the dangers? All of that is known. All of that could be a debate we have, but not in the United States. The United States is practicing 100% denial. It's too frightened of the very prospect of what we're talking about to be able to diminish it. And so it's going to get worse. I want to remind you, the International Monetary Fund has announced the results. The U.S. GDP grew in 2024 by about 2.7, 2.8%. And the GDP of the People's Republic of China grew at 5%. You've got to deal with this because you didn't in 2024. You have been unable to stop the Chinese from that kind of a performance. So what are you going to do? Nothing. You ask the question and everybody looks at you, as if you just asked how heavy the number 4 is, or what color is Thursday. In other words, you're asking questions, the categories of which make no sense because people don't want to see it. Since you never were told that the days of the week have a color, or that the numbers from 1 to 10 have weight, you could have been told that. If you were taught that, you would have known the answer. But you were never taught. so that the question makes no sense. We are discussing things which for a large group of people make no sense. They must respond to us as, what are they talking about? We have a president who doesn't know what he's doing. That's literally the situation, and it's not limited to the president, obviously. He intuitively feels the theatric that will work in the moment, and he's been right about that. Trump has decided that the neocon approach is something he, for whatever reason, doesn't want to see continue as a dominant theme. Yeah, then he'll purge out all of those people and substitute people who are not neocon. And then we will watch to see whether, for example, the neocon denigration of the Europeans as allies will be followed by a non-neocon policy, which I can't tell you now. It might be more dismissive of the Europeans, or it could be less. It will have to do with what the ultimate forces are that confront. If a dying empire wants to cannibalize its allies to get through the decline better, then that's going to be what the Democrats do. It's going to be what the Republicans do, with some differences, but they'll all be eating the lunch of their allies to give them a bit more time on this earth. They'll sacrifice them. Who cares about Denmark? That can morph into who cares about France or Germany too. And you could see the United States. It's an extension of what we know from declining empires. When the empire declines, when the economic system, whether it has an empire or not, declines, those at the top, those with the power and the wealth, use their power and wealth to minimize the effect on themselves of the declining environment. So they offload the burden onto the middle and lower classes. That's why we don't raise the minimum wage here. That's why the Republicans are going to cut all kinds, or try to cut all kinds of social spending. That's why the Europeans are desperate in that situation. If the Europeans do what the Americans are demanding, raise their defense expenditures, how are they going to pay for that? Answer, they're going to cut their social spending. And they're going to get a lot of support from a Republican mentality in the United States for doing that. We're going to see the difference in the same basic policy, because Republicans who want to do it this way, where Democrats who think rather let's do it that way. That's the debate. But what they're both doing is the same thing. They have different ways of doing it. That's as true in foreign policy as it is true here domestically. That's why neither party questions anything about the underlying capitalist system. That's why they have to deny that there is such a thing as an empire, let alone that it's declining. If they moderated their